Hey guys, it is the former film student back today with another episode of 31 Nights, 31 Frights, the series where I review a different horror film every day of October. We are on episode 20 of this series and we have 11 more movies to talk about. We do have another video coming up, and I mentioned this in my previous video that I'm going to be posting 2 episodes in one day, hopefully in the next coming week. I posted episode 17 and then a couple hours later checked back and it had been taken down for copyright reasons. It is my Texas Chainsaw Massacre review. I already addressed that in my previous video, but I figured I would just talk about it here again. With all that being said, let's get into today's episode with It. So It was released in 2017, directed by Andy Muschietti, and it stars a relatively unknown cast outside of Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise the Clown and Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things fame. And yeah, this movie, I have to eat a little bit of crow because I did a trailer reaction on my previous YouTube channel, my second one, the one that I had in college. When the initial trailer for this film was released, I did a reaction to it on my channel, and I thought it looked like shit. I really talked a lot of trash on this movie. I said outside of it looking visually really well done and that it looked like they at least put some effort into it, that this movie was going to be really bad. And then I saw it and I absolutely freaking loved it. I really, really still to this day enjoy this movie a lot. I think not only does it work really well as a horror film, but I think it works really well as a coming of age film as well. And it just works on a ton of different levels. For starters, I think, again, like I said, the visuals in this movie are really strong. Not only is the cinematography well done from a composition and a lighting standpoint, but also it just has really good special effects and VFX work. There's very few times in this film where I feel like the CGI was super noticeable. There's a couple parts towards the end of the film, especially in the third act, where I think they relied a little too heavily on CGI. And not that the computer work was terrible, but I just probably would have preferred practical effects. And that's just me personally. I just prefer practical effects, especially after watching a film like Hellraiser recently and just seeing how great the practical effects in that movie are and how real and visceral they feel. I always just prefer that films use practical effects over CGI and more so use CGI as a tool and less of a crutch. And speaking of the cinematography and the lighting, there is a great scene, the opening scene of this movie, where they do a really clever lighting trick, and it's when he's under the sewer, and all you see from him is his eyes lit up. And I'm not sure how they got that effect. It might have been done on a computer with VFX, or they just had a really, really clever way of lighting it. I'm not sure, but I absolutely love that lighting choice and that decision. It just adds so much creepiness, and it just makes the scene so much more scary. And I just yeah, sorry, not to go on off a little tangent, ramble, whatever. My thoughts are all over the place today, but I just really like that scene. But yeah, visually, this movie is really great. Again, it's really well shot. But moving on from that, the performances. Bill Skarsgård is the perfect casting choice for Pennywise the Clown. He absolutely steals the show in this movie. In every scene he's in, he looks like he's having an absolute blast every time he's on screen, and he just chews up the scenery and really goes for it. As much as I do like Tim Curry, and I like Tim Curry in the original It, which I'm not a huge fan of the original It. It's a really dated film. It doesn't really work that well. It's not that scary. It's really just not that good. Um, yeah, in this movie, I just think Bill Skarsgård is leagues better than Tim Curry. As much as I do, again, like Tim Curry, Bill Skarsgård just gives it 150% in this movie, and just he's the best part of the film, bar none, no question. He makes this movie what it is, and although this movie has a lot of other great aspects, Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, just absolutely fantastic. But aside from Bill Skarsgård, the kids in this movie, Finn Wolfhard and the rest of the cast, are really, really good in this movie. They are not just not bad, and you'll hear me talk about that a lot because a lot of kid performances are, they're either bad or they're just serviceable. But in this movie, the kids are really great. And as someone like myself who has worked as a director with children, I really do admire when kids give great performances. And although these aren't very young children, they're not like 7, 8 years old. it really does take a toll. You're 12, 13 years old, you're on set for long periods of time. A part of you probably just wants to be a normal kid and go hang out with your friends or play some video games, but you have to be on set at 6 a.m. and you're there for hours upon hours upon hours. It really takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of you as an adult, so I can't imagine being a child and having to work on these films, especially a big Hollywood film like this, which is shooting for several months. And yeah, I was just really impressed with the child performances in this movie. Not just, oh, they're serviceable, they're not terrible, they don't, detract from the film's quality, but they really do enhance this movie. And I think the chemistry amongst the kids in the Loser Club specifically is really great, and they're really fun to watch. And again, this movie's not just great as a horror film, but I think it's also a really great coming of age film, and it works in that realm as much as it does a horror film. And yeah, the kids' performances, again, just really, really solid in this movie. But of course, it is a horror film. And how does this movie fare as a horror film? I actually find this movie pretty terrifying. Fun fact, when I was young, I was terrified of clowns. And so for one of my early birthdays, I think my fifth or sixth birthday, I think my mother decided to get a clown. I don't think she knew. But yeah, so I spent most of my birthday that year hiding under a bed because I was terrified of the clown. I'm no longer super terrified of clowns. I do find them creepy. The large shoes, the just everything about them, the white face paint. Clowns are creepy, and no one can convince me otherwise. But I'm not super terrified of clowns anymore. But even so, this film really did a lot to scare me. Obviously, I think Bill Skarsgård is the scariest part of the movie, but even some of the other stuff in it, the scene with Mike, the young kid in the movie who he lives with his grandfather, the scenes where he sort of gets a glimpse of his parents burning inside of the house. That always gets to me from a psychological standpoint as well as a visual standpoint. Just a lot of the scares in this film. The redhead girl, I cannot remember her name. I do apologize. But it's been a little bit since I've seen this film. Unfortunately, I was not able to rewatch it for this review, but I am excited. I'll probably watch it one day this week because it's a good film to watch around the Halloween season. But anyway, the young redhead girl in the film, her father's really terrifying. Again, there's a lot of psychological horror there, and a lot of trauma and stuff like that that I think really plays into how scary that is. But just as a horror film, I think it works really, really well. Not only is this just a great film, but it is a great horror film. I think it does a really good job at scaring its audiences. There's a lot of really clever and unique scares in this film. My personal favorite scare in the film is probably the projector scene. If you've seen the film, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have not seen this movie, I am going to recommend this one. I do not know if it is streaming anywhere currently. It probably is, but if not, you can probably rent it for $3.99. This is a great, fun film to watch with a bunch of friends, but also you can find a lot of enjoyment and a lot of scares in it just watching it on your own, on your laptop, or something like that. There's not a lot I want to say about this film. I think you guys should just experience it for yourself. Again, I want to acknowledge that when the trailer came out, I talked a lot of shit on this movie, and I was horribly, horribly wrong. And I've never been so glad to be wrong about a film because I ended up really loving and really enjoying this movie as a whole. I think it works on a lot of great technical levels. As I mentioned, the cinematography is really great. It's really well shot. The visual and special effects in this movie hold up really well. And just the performances across the board are really strong. Bill Skarsgård is magnificent. I think the screenplay is really strong. It's a really well written film. Some people had some complaints that the kids don't really talk like kids, but in my opinion, I knew kids that acted like Richie in this film. Kids that were very curse heavy. They cursed a lot. They were very crass and talked, in that same sort of manner. So, I've known kids like that at that age. I've sort of known kids who acted like a lot of the different kids in this film. Shy kids, crass kids, just, a bunch of different kids that growing up you just sort of meet and interact with. And so I think the film did a really good job at replicating kids that age. Yeah, but I think the script is really strong. I think the film is really edited well. It's a very efficient horror film, especially if you watch It Chapter 2 and you go back and watch this movie. It makes you appreciate how well edited and efficient this movie is. It Chapter 2 is like 2 hours and 40 minutes long. It is longer than Avengers Infinity War, which that should give you some understanding of how drawn out that film is. But yeah, it made me appreciate how efficient this movie was and how, quickly paced it was and how fast the plot moved along and how it really didn't draw anything out and it just moved quickly. So I really appreciated that. Again, I don't really script these videos, so sorry if I rambled a little bit too much in this one. As we're nearing the end of the month, it's getting a little bit harder and harder to talk about these movies, and I'm still having fun talking about them, but with work, and I just finished another feature-length screenplay, which I've been working on. It just takes a lot out of you, a lot of stuff to do. But anyway, yes, I really recommend this movie. There's not much else I want to say about it. I really do appreciate this movie and enjoy it a lot. And I did not get to rewatch it again, like I mentioned, but hopefully I can watch it soon again. I do have it on Blu-ray. But yeah, that is all I'm going to say for today. As always, if you guys liked the video, make sure to click the like button, subscribe to me if you want to hear more from me. Make sure to click the little bell notification so that you do get notified when I post new videos. And as always, I will see you guys on the next episode.